Hey guys, welcome back to Ranger Survival and Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew, and what I have for you today is a look at a military survival jacket, also known as the smock. This jacket, the idea behind it is it's a lightweight jacket that is worn underneath our flick or our load-bearing equipment along with our rucksack. And if we drop our gear or without any of our equipment in just this jacket, we have everything we need in this jacket to survive. So we're going to go over those items, kind of a kit list to improve our survival chances on the battlefield. Stand by. All right, so what I want to go over today is survival jacket, also known as a smock. This is somewhat routine for soldiers in various militaries across the world, wearing jackets and then having survival items on them in those jackets, especially if they plan and prepare ahead of time. This is something where we can carry just a basic amount of survival equipment, or we can carry more if we want. And I'm going to show you kind of a heavier loadout, what I would like to pack in a survival jacket like this. If this is the only thing I have on me, what would be best to have, considering that it's going to be a colder environment generally, and that we're going to need to provide, again, for our most basic needs, water, shelter, protection, signaling for rescue, medical aid. We may not need a fire, or we may not have the ability to start a fire just because we may be escaping and evading wearing this jacket, which is the intent. The fire is going to be low on the totem pole for survival priorities, but we still need to be able to do everything else to maintain thermoregulation, to protect ourselves, and then eventually get rescued. So let's take a look at this jacket. This is a Fleckturn camo jacket modeled after the German military camouflage. What you'll notice is there's two giant pockets. You can fit both our hands in these pockets to the left and right hand side of our zipper here, down below the waist, so we can have a lot of different items in there, big items, and they come with a nice drainage hole at the bottom too, so that water's not going to build up if we have to jump in the drink and actually do a swim wearing this jacket. We also have those same pockets, two on the breast, and then underneath these pockets on the outside of the jacket, there are large compartment pockets, zipper form, access, where we can put a lot of those more important items that we want to keep close to the body, like map, compass, maybe a GPS or signaling devices, or anything that may be sensitive in nature, like a blood chit, that we can put in here, keep on us, and then bring out at the appropriate time. This jacket has a heavy-duty zipper, center line, and also large buttons, 1, 2, 3 buttons that are about the size of a quarter, with nylon strap right here. Heavy duty buttons to keep this jacket tight and on us. We got drawstrings down at the bottom of the jacket to close up that end and keep all the dead airspace tight with that warmth inside, especially at nighttime to stay warm, because we're probably not going to have a fire, and we're going to have a very rudimentary shelter. Up at the top, we've got a nice hood. This hood has a wire inside at the opening. We can manipulate that wire to keep this hood open so it doesn't drop down in front of our eyes. That's the last thing we want, is to constantly be pushing a hood up from our eyes. One, it obstructs our view, obviously, but then we're obviously creating movement as well by trying to constantly keep this hood up. So if we have a way to keep the hood open while still covering our faces and giving us a little bit more concealment, that wire is beneficial, especially for an escape and evasion scenario where we're trying to remain undetected. So we want to create as little movement as possible, but we also want to be able to see so we can know what's coming at us. So that hood's got nice drawstrings, so we can actually close up that hood and keep it closed to maintain thermoregulation, or to help give added concealment if we're in very thick vegetation and we need to protect our face. We also have on the sleeves up here at the shoulders, stronger material at the shoulders anyway, because we're going to be going through brush, and we're probably going to be crawling at some point, so that brush is going to hit our shoulders. We have that same material on our elbows. This jacket actually came with foam inserts into the elbow, so it opens up right here with Velcro. Good protection and added comfort, especially if we're going to be using escape and evasion movement techniques like low crawling or crawling on our elbows, moving up over obstacles. We would want to have protection on those more sensitive areas where we have potential bone contact with cement or with metal objects, or going over walls or logs, whatever it is. We also have kind of a large grenade pouch on the right sleeve. Not a huge fan of that. I'm not going to have a grenade up here in my sleeve while I'm low crawling or escaping and evading. I'm going to put it somewhere else. And then up here we have just a small administrative pouch, a large button closure. So we have a spot for a pen potentially, and then a larger pocket for maybe a smaller notebook or something else. So a couple of pockets on the sleeves. Not a huge fan of those. but they're there and they can be useful. Also, at the sleeve, on the underside in the armpit, we have a zipper access to where we can create a vent, open that zipper up, and allow heat to get out, especially if we're running or moving or crawling a lot, expending a lot of energy, building up sweat. We want to be able to stay cool while we're moving so we don't have that sweat on us in a colder environment, because at nighttime when those temperatures dip, that's when hypothermia could be very prevalent. So we have a nice vent underneath the armpit to help stay cool, and then we can close it back up when we want to stay warm. One thing that I want to show you that really sold me on this jacket is something that I've seen from World War II, a memoir that I read, My 30-Year War, by Haruo Nada, a Japanese soldier who survived 30 years on the island of Lubang. He would take fishing line and thread, and he would sew little loops in his clothing so he could emplace vegetation into those loops quickly, to give him added concealment so he could escape and evade from the villagers and other soldiers and law enforcement on that island. And he did this for 30 years, so it's a tried and true technique. You'll see right here to the left and right hand side of the zipper on the jacket about the waist, there are cloth loops of the same material as the jacket. They're up here on the shoulder of the jacket, both sides, right here and here. And then even on the back of the jacket, there are about 11 loops just right here on the upper back. So with these loops on this jacket, as a survival feature for escape and evasion for military purposes, we can take vegetation off the field and actually place it in these loops to give us added concealment as we escape and evade. Having it on our backs means that while we lay down, we're more concealed. We have the vegetation on top of us, so we blend into our environment. These things are great to have, an awesome technique, but that's something that we can add to our own kit, and we can even sew these into our own jacket if we don't have a survival smock like this. This is a great technique and something that really sold me on a survival jacket like this, and an improvement that we can do ourselves if we want to. Now, on the back of the jacket, we have kind of nice little fanny pack pouch, 3 buttons, very large, where we could put clothing or extra materials or anything that we want to pick up, larger resources. And then even inside the jacket itself, on the reverse of that large fanny pack, there's another large 2-section pouch inside where we could put other material. You could even stuff this with debris to give us added insulation at nighttime to help maintain thermal regulation if we wanted to. Just another idea or survival feature of this jacket. And then on the inside, up at the chest, on both sides, we have zippered pockets where we can get in and keep the map, compass, blood shit, everything that we need to keep on us, close to us, that we need to protect and safeguard with our lives. So I'm a big fan of this jacket. I'll probably be wearing this a lot more in cooler temperatures and different types of seasons here, or as an undercoat, but it's a lighter material. It's not a heavy winter jacket, which is great, which means that we can actually take this off or use the vents to help thermoregulate so we don't build up that sweat if temperatures do happen to drop at night. But it's just light enough to where we could add some sort of undergarment, like a sweater, some sort of other layer that we could have with us. So if we have this light jacket and we layer our clothing underneath, along with a few other items, this could be a good survival shelter in and of itself. All right, so let's get down to business with our kit. Now, talking about clothing, we should probably have a few other items with this jacket. One is going to be that underlayer. This is just one of the old school acrylic sweaters in a V-neck, of course, because we're going to be stylish while we're doing escaping and evading. But with this undercoat, we could leave this on and then take off the jacket if we wanted to, or take this off and layer our clothing depending on the situation. But having some sort of good undergarment like a sweater is going to be great for those night times when it's cold. We're also going to need a set of gloves to protect our hands, and then even our little fleece cap or our snookie to keep our head warm. And then something else that I think we should have that is perfect for this jacket and type of camo is just a camouflage sniper veil. We can do a lot of things with this sniper veil, besides just wearing it around our necks to keep us warm, or putting it over our head to break up that human outline of the shoulder, head, and neck area. This is approximately 6 feet long by 2 feet wide. We could use this to help create additional concealment by covering the rest of our body or our legs in a small hide site. A lot of different survival uses with a sniper veil just like this one. Be good to add it to our kit. Now, we're going to think military survival here, and so one of the things that we should probably have in this jacket as a recommendation for any type of combat environment is protection against an enemy threat. And so one thing we can actually throw in here that might be beneficial is just an additional magazine for our primary weapon system. This is a 20-round magazine, 5.56. So if we have our weapon system, but we dropped our plate carrier, or we dropped our flick, or we just have this jacket, we just have our rifle because we're hanging onto our primary weapon system, and we have to escape and evade and get away or break contact from a threat. If we empty that magazine that's already in our weapon system, we have another one that we can use for a prolonged firefight just to get away from that threat, break contact, and then begin escaping and evading, moving back to our recovery site. All right, so speaking of combat, we probably want to have things on us to treat any type of battlefield injury. We should already have a tourniquet on us in our pants pocket or even underneath this or as part of our IFAK if we have it. But we also want to have extra or supplemental medical aid items to help treat different injuries. And so a recommendation, two of the more useful items that we can probably carry is going to be just a simple field dressing, old school style, and then old school again, just a olive drab cravat, triangle shape of 100% cotton material that we can use for improvisational aids. With these two things, we can treat multiple injuries, everything from fractures to eye wounds, but we can also treat head wounds or burns. We can swath or create a tourniquet if we didn't have that tourniquet already to help stop bleeding of a catastrophic wound. But we can also use that field dressing for tinder. We can use it to get a fire started if we had to. While still maintaining this dressing, we could just pull a little bit out to start a fire and then keep that dressing for future use if we need it for medical aid. Then even that cravat can be used to not only perform medical aid services to ourselves or to others, we can use this for added camouflage as well as improvisation in the field. So multi-use items right here, very small package. It's not going to be huge. It's not going to take up a lot of space. And these items are relatively small and they don't make a lot of noise. So they're good to have as part of an escape and evasion kit. Next part of combat, we want to have a way to land navigate because we need to move to either our recovery site or our recovery area in accordance with our EPA, Evasion Plan of Action. We just need to get out and find our way back to friendly lines. So having a small or at least a decent land navigation kit is going to be important. So we have not only pen and paper that we can write on. These things can be easily destroyed as well. We can just light these on fire with a lighter in our pocket or destroy them or bury them so they don't fall into the wrong hands. But we can keep our notes as well as a travel log in here. We have our compass. This is a smaller compass. It's still relatively reliable. It's got that mirror inside so we can use it as a potential signaling device, but this compass is relatively accurate and precise, giving us at least better than cardinal directions when we land navigate. So having a decent compass, we could get a better compass than this or carry a military style compass or even a better commercial compass. But something like this, multifunctional, small, that will fit inside this jacket and won't be a hindrance. It's not going to be a boat anchor in this jacket. It's going to be something that's going to help us. Plus just a small lanyard or a necktie so we can put this around our neck so we don't lose it. So we got that compass. Next we got probably one of the more important things is maps. We could do this style of map where I've shown it before, lamination over top of our area of operation where we can write on it. And then we have our illumination bar on the back side. Like and subscribe if you want, okay? I had it there from last time. I forgot to erase it. But we have this style map. This is very easy to put in a pocket. It fits really well. And then we can also take this if we have to and burn it or destroy it. Another idea that could be preferable is just a map case with our map inside and a nice drawstring so we can actually tie this off to the jacket itself so we don't lose it, or we can tie it off, make it a necklace to put around neck so we don't lose this or drop it. Just keep it on the inside of this jacket. We have just a protected map in here, protractor as well, so we can do some good land navigation. So this is a 1/100,000th map, which means that the grid squares are very, very tiny. So we have a large section of map right here for a larger area in case we have to actually escape and evade over a very, very long distance to get to friendly lines. All right, so these items are going to take care of most of our combat needs, defeating a threat, protecting ourselves, also saving our own lives with medical aid items or saving our buddies' lives, and then land navigating, getting ourselves or our entire group back to friendly lines so we can be recovered and brought back to safety. So that takes care of most of our combat needs for the survival smock. Now let's take a look at more of the traditional survival kit that we're going to need as part of this. And one of the first things, at least for our military scenario that we're talking about, is going to be signaling items. All right, besides having the ability to defeat a threat or break contacts, saving our own lives, and land navigating, signaling is probably going to be higher up on the totem pole for survival with our military scenario with this survival smock, because the sooner we signal rescue, if it's around us, the sooner we get picked up. So it would behoove us, there's that word again, behoove, to have good signaling items or signaling kit items. Now we have quite a few that we can use that I would recommend that are multifunctional in and of themselves. All right, so there's a lot of good items right here with signaling and a lot of multifunctional items in and of themselves. One of those first items is going to be a Mylar blanket. This is green on one side, red on the other. So we could use this for shelter, but we could also use it for signaling a rescue. Mylar is something we may not want to have as part of this kit, only because it's noisy and you can't pack it up as well. But in an emergency, if you have to make a quick shelter to maintain thermoregulation and prevent somebody from going hypothermic, especially if they've already been injured and they've lost blood, this is really important to have. On the other end of the spectrum here, we have a small aviator's panel, survival panel. This thing is just basic silk, and it packs down to a very small size, but it unfolds to about the size of a shemagh. But we can quickly get this out, signal rescue aircraft or friendly personnel, grab it, crunch it back up, and then shove it away in our pocket very quickly to avoid the enemy seeing that. So we have that panel as part of a survival kit. And this is the thing they give aviators as a quick panel to have. Lightweight, comfortable, easy to deploy, easy to redeploy, and something that we can keep in our pocket relatively easily. So this makes great sense to have as part of a survival smock or jacket kit. One of my favorites for signaling, especially at nighttime, is going to be just 2 chem lights with 550 cord tied around them to create a buzzsaw. We just take these chem lights, crack them. It could be an IR chem light or just a visual chem light like this, and then extend the cordage out, spin it in the air the direction aircraft or friendly forces is going to come from, and then they will see this and be drawn into our position. We can easily just recapture this, coil the cordage, place it back in our pocket, and save it for later. But having 2 chem lights like this, just a quick technique. It's small, easy to use, easy to grab, and then potentially wrap up in a piece of Mylar or some other sort of cloth material to help conceal that light, especially if it's a visual one like this and not an IR one. We can conceal that, hold on to it, and then move to another signaling area, redeploy that. If we want to keep this from being seen by people while we move, we can do that. It's a technique. Next, signaling mirror. Probably one of the best for daytime operations. And attached to it, we have a lanyard for a necktie, so we can put this around our neck. But then we have that whistle, so we have a visual and then an auditory signal right here for daytime as well as nighttime with that auditory. We also have a mirror inside our camo pack, so we can have this for concealment, but it can also be used for signaling because we have that mirror or this bright shiny piece of Mylar right here to reflect the sun's rays. So concealment as well as non-concealment with this, just a multifunctional item. This camo probably better served as part of our escape and evasion or our combat kit to go with things like our ammo and our map. We need to veg up. It's one of the first steps in immediate actions when you have to get off the X and escape and evade or begin that escape and evasion process. Vegging up with camo is one of the first steps. So we should probably have this as part of our combat kit, but I include it in the signaling because of just the fact that it has a mirror that we can use for signaling search and rescue. We have mirrors, visual auditory signals, whistles. On the back of this mirror, I almost forgot, we have just a striking surface for our matches. So we just have another striker right here. If we have survival matches with us, we can use this as a striker if we lose our other one. So good technique. And then lastly, flashlights, some sort of flashlight. Now we should probably go with just a headlamp so we can free up our hands. And this flashlight right here is a Streamlight, and it's got both white as well as a strobe mode. Hope you don't mind me flashing you. This one actually has an infrared setting, and so we can actually set an IR strobe with this as a passive signal at nighttime, hang it up in a tree or set it in the direction that friendly forces are going to come from, and then use that to help signal if they have night vision goggles on or NVGs on. So we should probably prefer something like this that we can use both handhold method, but we could also put it as a headlamp and then even as a passive signal with that strobe. An old school technique that I wanted to show you was just one of those mini L-shaped flashlights. Camoed this thing up with spray paint, and then we got the red lens in, if you can see that. And it's got a few other lenses in it. But this is camoed up, and then we took 325 cord, which is just 325-pound tensile strength cordage, to make a lanyard. And this lanyard, there's a hole in the back of the flashlight where we have this little clasp, and then down here at the back, underneath the battery cap, where we have just a little pull pin. We attach the cordage there so we don't lose the bottom cap of our flashlight if we have to change these batteries out at nighttime. But we can also use it as a handhold, hold this flashlight so we can still have use of our fingers with the flashlight while we're holding it. We won't lose it, and we can still grab that flashlight so it's just draped over our hand. We can also invert it and put it around the backside in preparation for nightfall. Once that sun goes down, we can still have access to our hands. We have our flashlight out, ready to go. Just an old school trick with just a small mini L shape that can go inside this smock. Again, both of these are relatively small, mini L shape and then a small streamlight like this, but we're probably going to want to have some sort of headlamp as opposed to a hand-only hold flashlight, even though this one's really cool and it's a fun little technique or old school trick to use. We probably want to go hands-free so we have something on our head and we can use both of our hands for whatever we need. After protection, after medical aid, after land navigation, after signaling, now I think we need water. Water is going to be pretty low on the totem pole until we break contact and get away from that enemy threat. But we need to have a lot of different ways to get water because we're not going to be making a fire, or probably not going to be making a fire. So we need to have multiple ways of getting water to maintain hydration so we will obviously not die in a survival situation. All right, so one of the best, and the first one that I would pick for this type of kit is just a survival straw. We have the straw here and then the filter, the larger dark portion. We connect those together, go straight to the water source, drink that water to our heart's content, get fully hydrated, and then move away from that water source. The downside to this is that we have to travel water to water. And if the enemy knows or picks up sign that we're moving from water to water, all they have to do is wait at that water source until we show up to take a drink, and then we're done. So there's advantages to this, quick water on the fly, but then eventually, if we leave enough sign, we may give an indication that we're moving from water to water, and then the enemy just has to sit and wait for us, just like a deer hunter. That's why we need other ways to travel with water. So we have just our Worldpac bag, a 32-ounce, 1 quart or 1 liter bag that we can gather, scoop up water with, and travel with. This would be kind of like our contingency plan. So we have a primary, we have an alternate, and then we have a kind of a contingency way of gathering water. So we have this bag, and then we have our iodine tabs, 2 tabs for 1 US quart or 1 liter. But if we only have 1 bottle of tabs, we still have to travel with water. A good technique or a good thing to add to this kit or any evasion kit is a Pilot Survival Flask. This Pilot Survival Flask is half a quart, half a liter. So with these tablets right here, all we need is 1 tablet per 1 bottle of water. So we scoop up the water in this, put 1 tablet in, and we can treat that water. So now we're still treating the same amount of water. We're carrying less, but we're extending the life of these tabs a lot more. So we're going to have half a quart, 1 tab instead of 1 quart, 2 tabs. But with something like this, we can still travel away from that water source, and now we can actually pick the time and place we go get water until we run out of water, obviously, thus remaining a little bit more unpredictable and decreasing our chances of detection by enemy forces because we only fill up at nighttime or during hours of limited visibility, and then quickly conceal our tracks and move away from that water source as fast and as safe as we can. So water is going to be really, really important because even in a military survival scenario, we could die of dehydration in a day or 2 or 3, probably less if we're really expending ourselves and covering a lot of distance without consuming the water that our bodies need. So water is going to be big. All right, after that, fire now becomes fairly important. We don't have a lot of tools here. I'm going to go over those in a minute for shelter craft as well as skill craft or field craft. But fire, at least for the smock, is something that is really low on the totem pole because fire obviously gives away our position. People can smell the smoke for a long distance. They can follow the smoke scent, or they can see the fire at nighttime and even in daytime with a lot of smoke. And so fire is really low on the totem pole, but we still need to have a way to start fire for signal fires, things like that. And so we're just going to have a small ferro rod and then man-made tinder, just cotton balls and Vaseline as part of our kit to get a fire going very quickly. Typically, in our pockets, we should already have a way to start fire, and that primary fire starting tool is going to be our lighter. And after that, we can use improvisational methods. Maybe we use gunpowder and the sparking source from our lighter, whatever it is, or solar ignition, however we're going to get that fire going. But fire is really low on the totem pole because we are just protecting ourselves and evading, getting away from that threat, trying to make our way back to friendly lines. So there's a lot more that takes precedent over having a fire out in the wilderness. All right, so other things we should have in here. Obviously, we should have, like my old ranger instructor used to say, always have a knife, way to start fire, and a snack in your pocket. We should probably have food in our pockets. We should have an energy bar, help keep us going, keep our energy up. But that's something we can use to maintain alertness, especially if we're in a hide site and we're trying to stay awake, is just energy gum, this military caffeine chewing gum. If you remember the old First Strike rations, these used to come in those. And I think they're actually making a comeback in the newer MREs. There's MREs, and then there's something called CARS that's coming out. It's basically like a smaller 24-hour ration pack, and I think these are actually coming out in those. But we can chew this at our hide site to stay awake, and then we have at least something to put in our stomachs while we're escaping and evading, bringing that trash with us. Or we could use this as bait in a primitive trap that we set up to go after larger game. But having food in our pockets, incredibly important. All right, and after all of that, something we can obviously have, not only in our pocket, but also this jacket, is just a small military survival tin. This one was picked up off the shelf. It's just a military scout pocket survival kit, and it's got mostly subdued colors with all the items inside, but it's going to have everything from even a sewing kit to repair our clothing, to a small fishing kit, a Fresnel or Fresnel lens to do solar ignition, other ways to start fire, improvised materials for land navigation, like a button compass. Now, we look at this as kind of supplemental to the larger items that we have here. If we lose our canteen or this gets damaged for whatever reason, or the pilot survival flask, there's a water bag in here. Even if we puncture this one, we have a backup, plus there's other water treatment tablets in here, so we can use those as well. This has a Fresnel or Fresnel lens, so we could use solar ignition. It also has matches, a small ferro rod, and then man-made tinder. It comes with a commando wire saw, so we can use that to take down material if we have to build or improve our hide or shelter site. It's got a lot of stuff in it, plus some smaller band-aids for routine care. Everything that we need. This is something that will make those things possible, which is why we call it a possibles tin. It's just creating possibilities for us with the items inside. But this is small enough where we can put it inside our kit, or if we have to ditch this jacket for some reason, we can grab this alone and then at least have the ability to perform certain survival tasks. All right, so I want to go through how I would pack this because I think it's incumbent upon us to see how all of this stuff would kind of fit into a kit. With any survival kit, we need to cross-load. So if we don't have anything in our pockets, just like our pants pockets or maybe an undershirt or an undercoat, we can take a lot of these smaller items and place them in those pockets. But for something like our panel, we need to have it out, need to have it ready. It's going to go in a breast pocket, plus it provides maybe just a little bit of insulation and protection as well. Fire, put it inside one of these back pockets inside the coat to have it protected. All right, with a map like this, this is something I'm going to either tie off to the jacket or I'm going to make a necklace out of and hang around my neck. This is going to be right next to my skin. Now with that compass for land navigation, we may wear this around the neck as well, or something that's really neat about these pockets is that inside they actually have a buckle or a small D-ring, and so we can take this, loop it in a lark's head around that D-ring, and now we have our compass tied down. We're never going to lose it, but it'll be right there, so we can actually land navigate with it, and then just tuck it inside. Same with that notebook and pen. You just tuck it right inside with our compass. So this one is going on our left-hand side. All right, other signaling items. We've got our mirror and our whistle. Should probably also wear these around our neck, or at least have them tied off. All right, medical aid items. We should probably cross distribute these. We could put this in our pants pocket, and then we could take this field dressing and put it down in one of our other cargo pockets. Something that we may need protected as well is that glass jar of iodine tablets. If we go with a glass jar, or if we have tablets in just a wrapper, we should probably have cross-loaded this as well. So we can take this and put it in this outside breast pocket, zip it up. Now we often use these buzzsaw chem lights for medical aid. And so what we could do is just to keep like things together in a military mindset is we have our field dressing in this pouch. We can take one of those chem lights for signaling and place it in that pouch as well. Down here in the front pouch, I'm going to put other signaling items, put our headlamp. We're going to take one of our signals and place it up here, distributing those buzz saws. That pocket straw filter, I'm going to take this, put it on the other side of our body, inside this pocket, close to our chest. That way we know we have it, because that's going to be our number one way of treating water that we want to protect. Next we have camo. Put it up here, closest to the face, so we have access to it, so we can camo up or veg up as we need to. What we can do is take our food that we're probably going to be eating at nighttime anyway, and put it with our flashlight. Take this tin, put it inside this pouch over here, or underneath of that medical dressing. And then over here, because it's a supplemental item that we might not need right away, we're not going to be doing reloading at lightning speed with this magazine. We can place it in this pocket right here. And then if we were unsure about this and we had a Mylar blanket with us, we could take this Mylar blanket, put it over top in that pocket of that magazine, and then keep that from clanging and banging around, shoving stuff in our pockets. And now that's the jacket packed up with our entire kit, minus that map that's going to go around our neck. All right, so something I think we should probably talk about is not just the jacket itself, but we should always have items attached to us somehow, either on the belt, in our pockets, just on the off chance that we don't have this jacket, or we're just with what's on us and we're left alone to survive. So what we should have on us as part of any survival kit, a basic survival kit, is some sort of field knife or survival knife first. This is just the F1 survival knife from Falkneven. So this knife, full tang, it's laminated carbon steel. It's not going to give sparks off the back at all, believe me, I've tried, but it's got a good 90-degree spine. Convex or concave, I always get those confused. A good grind on it. Anyway, very sharp knife, easy to sharpen in the field, and highly reliable. Really, really tough survival knife. Good enough, just a nice 4-inch cutting surface or so for crafting in the field, as well as other things. So a good field knife. Should also have probably a multi-tool. I was reading a military survival manual by the Marine Corps, and they said that every Marine should have some sort of fixed blade knife, a multi-tool of some sort, and then sharpening stone and a compass as part of their pocket carry kit, and that makes a lot of sense. So just a small multi-tool Leatherman Wave Plus right here. I prefer to also have some sort of utility knife. So we got 3 blades now. I know it's a lot. You don't need 3, but having a small utility knife for campcraft, and then having a larger fixed blade or even a multi-tool for other purposes, you can kind of divide up those blades and save the edge on those blades without wearing them down for a long period of time. Next, we should probably have a couple of hanks of paracord, 550 cord for a variety of different skills. There's a ton of stuff you can do with paracord, so have at least 50 feet. And then we obviously have that sharpening stone for maintaining our tools. I do believe in carrying a small sharpening stone as part of a kit for the field. And then lastly, they're not tied together, unfortunately, but that's a lighter and then chapstick, something for our lips, as well as cuticles or skin, plus an improvised fire starter wrapped with tape. And then that lighter, our primary fire starting tool with tape that we can use as a flame extender. So a basic pocket kit. And then lastly, from the jacket itself, we have that cravat. That cravat can go in our pocket. We use it as a sweat rag, and then improvisation, camouflage, whatever we need it to. It's too easy to put a cravat in the pocket as well. All right, guys, a very down and dirty video today. It's getting kind of long in the tooth. I was planning on doing a little bit more with this kit, demonstrating some skills, but I may make that a different video for later so you guys can see how this kind of works in the field. But right now, just a gear dump demonstrating a pocket carry as well as our smock survival jacket, the gear that goes inside, extra clothing, everything that we need for a survival jacket kit out in the field in a military type scenario just for survival and even escaping and evading. I hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate you guys' feedback. I want to thank you guys for the thing you do for me, for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.